And without further ado, is everybody here? Well, I'll just start calling out names and hopefully they'll come out. Okay, but Mike Royce is here. And Justina Machado. Hey! And Tobolowsky. And Todd Grinnell. And Brent Miller. And that's everybody. Hi, guys.
Hi.
In that episode we just watched, Mike, the audience reaction when Lydia says "not yet," I can't imagine what that must have felt like on set, like in that moment. Was it just, were you all sort of excited to hear the audience when she delivers it so perfectly?
It was one of the best moments I've ever experienced on it. I mean, maybe the best moment on a stage, because with the audience, we had one of the rarest opportunities you can ever have is to make them think you're going to kill off a character in a sitcom. Because that never happens. And I think because, the combination of being on Netflix and it's Rita Moreno, and maybe at home people are thinking, I guess maybe she had a 2-year contract. I don't know. Like, they don't, people bought into it. So the people in that room and the way the story was told was leading everybody to think that, it was an option. So that audience, I mean, you can hear it. We actually had to turn it down when Tony comes in and says, I'm here to pick you up. The audience was like, no! They were very upset. They were very upset.
There was one thing about the audience of that particular show that I've never experienced before in my life, and I don't know if you have, Todd. I don't think you have, Justine, either. Is that it's a comedy, right? The show is a comedy. One Day at a Time is a comedy, but for 3 hours, the audience was basically silent, except for when the jokes happened, and then there were these bursts of laughter, and then absolute silence. And I had never experienced that before, and I was telling friends of mine, we did an episode of One Day, and the audience was just, the silence was almost holy. And they go like, ooh, that sounds pretty bad. And I go, no, it was absolutely wonderful. And the eruption on Not Yet was the release of that 3 hours of silence. It was amazing.
So there's a little bit of an elephant in the room that we'll just get out of the way right at the top. Obviously, I think everyone here hopes that there are future seasons of this show we love so much. Is there anything you can share?
I didn't think about this till I just watched that episode, but I really hope the trajectory that we're telling the same story of the series, where everyone is led to believe that something is dead and then miraculously not. And I think, all I can say is that there's hope. There's hope. There's not hope.
Great.
Sometimes I've been through 3 Save Our Show campaigns. The first 2 didn't work. And that's why I'm with this show. And the other 2 were like, pie in the sky, you're hoping like, oh my God, I hope a miracle happens, whatever. This is, I think I can safely say this is beyond, we're past miracle status. People are interested, and we just need to make sure it can all work out, and we want to do a credible version of the show. If we end up doing it, you don't want to do something that somehow takes away from the creative.
Right.
And those are sometimes all monetary considerations, and but we're talking, and we hope to have news sooner rather than later. And people who, I just want to thank everybody, online and elsewhere. I mean, people have been fighting so hard for the show with the Save ODAAT campaign. And it's been, kept us in the conversation for, listen, let's win some fucking Emmys. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when this show comes back, it will be because of you guys.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right. Absolutely. So yes.
Keep tweeting. Keep talking about it.
Yes, invent new apps and do whatever that app does.
And the other big elephant is, if there is another season, will Estrelita be back? Is what
There's so
a
many
lot
big
of people
elephants
here
in this room.
asked me to ask.
She,
Estrellita will be back.
Great, great.
yeah, they have a conversation to finish, from what I remember.
Yes, they do. Very much so. That episode was amazing. We had two icons on set, Gloria Estefan with Rita Moreno. I have obviously, that was like an incredible, surreal week for me. How were you guys trying to get Gloria Estefan on the show for a long time? Like, how did that all come together? And
I think we were trying to get her for a while, since the first season, because she sings our theme song, right?
Yeah.
And also she's kind of the queen of, lo cubano, sí o no, ¿verdad? Yeah.
very
So
much
she
so.
is. So we were trying to get her for a while, and this was the perfect, really the perfect role, because we wanted her for something else.
Yes, we
Yeah.
had an idea in the season before that
Yes.
she wasn't available.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, and I mean, Gloria Calderon-Kellett, who, really wishes she could be here. By the way, I apologize. It's a little bit of a sausage fest. I apologize for the...
Oh, no, wait, and
lack
I
of,
forgot. They told me we have a video. We have
yeah,
a
sorry,
message
right,
from
yes.
Isabella.
Oh, wait.
Can we
What?
play that?
Yeah.
I was supposed to do that at the top, sorry.
By the way. Being blinded by
Hi! ATX TV Festival, I'm so bummed that I can't be there. I had so much fun last year. I would love to see all of you and squeeze you, and of course be reunited with my incredible cast and creators. But I'm working, fortunately / unfortunately. But I just want to say hello, say that I'm there in spirit, and give you a little update about ODAAT. I know a lot of people want to know. I was told to give an update. Basically, a little bit of the same. We're not dead yet. # save ODAAT. There's, interest, but it's show business, and figuring out the business aspect of it can be hard. But we are not letting go of hope yet. We love the Alvarez family. We want to keep making this show for you. So the way you can help us out is # save ODAAT on your socials, and let these networks know that you want us back for a 4th and 5th and 6th. All right, have so much fun, you guys. Love you. Mwah.
She is the best. Speaking of this amazing cast, this is such an incredible ensemble, and I would love for you guys to talk a little bit about how it all came together. Was it just the run-of-the-mill auditions or screen tests, or how did this put, because really it's such an ensemble show, and there's so many things that have to kind of link up to kind of create the magic you guys have. So how did you find all these amazing actors?
Well, I mean, Brent started it. I mean, as far as the show coming together, right? You were talking with Norman, and I mean, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, this was. I don't. How many people know what a non-writing executive producer does? Is there? I feel like that's a conversation.
Not enough, please.
It's interesting because people always ask me, like, what do you do? Like, how do you, how are you involved? So
Do they ask you like that? That's so rude.
just like that. No, I mean, I think that for this show in particular, I mean, it's basically finding your favorite puzzle and putting it all together. And in this case, I often say the most amazing arranged marriage in town was Mike Royce and Gloria Calderon-Kellett. Because at the beginning, it was Mike, Norman, and I talking about this show about a Latinx family, and we're looking at each other as 3 white guys. And we're
Just culturally going off, Just,
like, this is not going to work. So yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, what we do is we do what we can to put it together, and then you are a support system ultimately. So to answer your question, Melissa, is that it started with Mike and Gloria and an amazing script, and then Norman has a a deep passion for Rita Moreno. I think he's often said that she's carrying his baby, which is ridiculous, as we all know. But
Is it though?
It was Gloria had said, I think it was her actual story was season 1 with the, talking about her quinceañera and that she did not really want to have one. And I remember that was our initial meeting talking about that. And I think it might have been Norman who said, oh, we've got to have an abuelita like Rita Moreno. And so it started with Rita, and then, Justina. Can we just talk about... That was holy. We got Justina Machado kind of moment, and then it just all fell into place. I think the hardest character was Schneider. You can speak to this. This poor guy. How many times did you come in to read?
Well, Norman called me while I was vacationing in Saint-Tropez and asked me if I would deign to play this character, and I said yes, and it was that easy. No, I auditioned. I don't know how many times I came in because it was like 5. It was like months where I was like, is this happening? Am I still in the mix for this? I don't know. And then they're like, well, we're auditioning women now, I think. We don't really know what the character wants to, what we want to do, because it was, it's such an iconic character, and there's really so much you could do with it when you do a reboot. There's really imaginative ways to reinvent something, and so I think they were looking at everything. And thankfully, I don't know, they got tired and gave up, and we were just like, all right, Todd can have it.
No, talking about someone who really made... When you have to step in the shoes of any role, and I'm not an actor, so I'm only speaking as a support system here, but it's a difficult thing to take on, and this guy took on a role that a lot of people know. When people think of One Day at a Time, they always ask, Schneider. Last night we were standing in a bar, and this really drunk woman came up to us like, who's the tool guy? That guy. But how amazing is Todd Grinnell? Come on.
Thank you.
Anyway, I'll stop. Go ahead, Melissa.
I love it. And Justina, for you, you've been working forever. Your resume is incredible. I think you're one of the best actresses we have, especially in our community. But not like a ton of multicam. Was there any feelings about that going into it?
Well, I didn't even know it was a multicam. I was on the bus with them after I had we went to go see, you weren't there, Mike, but Brent, we went to go see John Leguizamo's play. What's that play called? The one that was on Broadway?
Latin for Morons.
Yes. So when they were workshopping it in La Jolla in San Diego, and I had just gotten the role, and I was sitting next to Gloria, and she's like, so this is gonna be like theater. I'm like, okay. I had no idea it was a multicam. I thought it was single camera, which means I had no idea there was gonna be an audience until after I got the show, and I was like, oh, this is in front of an audience? And then she's like, yes, okay. It's interesting because we can talk about this, how terrified we are before we go on in front of all these people, because sometimes didn't happen often on our show because of the incredible writing, but sometimes we bombed when we walked out there and nobody laughed at us, and we were like this, oh my God, we have to go back out there. And then the writers come over and then they help you out. And how many times have we been back there, Todd, like this? We're just like, oh my God, I don't want to go back out there. I don't want to go back out there. It really sucked. And then we have to go back out there. So I don't know, there's something amazing about multicam. There's a balance that you have to learn, right? Because you have an audience, and as a performer, you want to please your audience, but you also have to do the show. Yeah. That's the most important thing, and you have to realize that you're not there to entertain. We're a unit. The audience and the actors, we're a unit. We're working together. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting because the audience doesn't care if we right. You know what I mean? They like, especially when Rita, they love that. Because Rita is the queen of just, she's so witty, she's so funny, she's so charming. Forget about it. You'll be like, who? You don't even remember. You know what I mean? Because she's so awesome. But there's a unit, and there's this beautiful thing that happens between an audience and the performers in a multicam. I don't even know how to describe it unless you've been a part of it, and you have been a part of it. So how did you feel? I mean, truly.
It is. It's a little dance.
Yeah.
And you know right away if it's working or not.
That's right.
But yeah, and it's this it lives right in between theater and television because the performance is not as big as it might be for a theater. But yeah, I all the respect. And I remember when Justina and I were doing our scene, and she got beautifully emotional in one moment, and then the next second just like flipped a joke, and I was like, how do you do that? And yeah, it's incredible what you guys do. And actually, along with that, I wanted to ask you guys approach so many important issues and represent a lot of people on this show that aren't normally seen on television. How is towing the challenge of addressing those, whether it's a social issue or a non-binary character with like truth and honesty, but at the same time telling jokes, and for the cast as well, performing those beats?
Well, I mean, this was a good one as far as the comedy and the drama, because the comedy's so much funnier if you've gone through something that means something to you. So those jokes, it's almost like such a relief, when Nurse Wally is left in the, stuck in the other bedroom there or whatever. It's like a great release, and just like when something, hard is happening to you, laughter is all you have. So those two things really intermingle constantly throughout our show. We're always, very few episodes don't get to something. Some are lighter than others, but we always go somewhere emotional on some level. And the jokes, they just really work in tandem because, a joke will undercut a dramatic moment in a good way and let you have that relief. And also, when we get to the emotional part, it makes the jokes mean something. That you're, headed. You're not just headed towards. You're not just a bunch of people saying jokes to each other. So yeah, as far as performing, it's really it's a really interesting thing to watch. The first scene for everybody is just like because the warm-up comic has to come out and warm up the audience, but then there's never there's a space and so many jokes and so many moments. It's all timing. So just a microsecond here or there can screw up everything. And when you're in the audience, it's like the performers are down here, but there's cameras in front of them, and so people watch the monitors, but they sometimes watch the performers, so they're sometimes not seeing the jokes on this camera, but they didn't, the camera didn't get over there, and in editing you can make it all work, but you're in front of an audience, so there's a lot of false, okay, that's gonna work, don't worry, that's gonna work, but now you've said it, so they're not gonna laugh as much the second time, except for also sometimes the audience loves to hear it a second time. Sometimes the first time they're like, wait, what was that? And then, oh, I got it now. I'm ready to laugh. It's all a very weird alchemy of stuff. But what's great is it really, the audience the theater part does really enliven everyone's performance. It's great to see.
Just to mention something that's kind of off topic but kind of on topic, is I did a couple shows with Richard Kind. Do you know Richard Kind? Great, yeah, great actor. So we did 2 multicams together, and he goes, so Tobolowsky, this is what I do. I always go out in the first scene and I screw up. I'll intentionally screw up, and then I'll swear in front of the audience and go oh. And then they love that. And then from then on, you could do no wrong. And to extrapolate on that, it's kind of like what One Day does with the serious topics, in that there are things that you usually don't talk about. That's what makes One Day at a Time so special, is that we talk about on the show things that people don't usually talk about. And in a way, it brings the audience together. And like Mike says, it creates all of this energy for the laughs. It's like we all share a secret together, because all of us have been picked on. at some point in our lives for something that wasn't our fault or something we have no control over. And we feel the indignity and we feel the hurt of it and we survive it and we feel proud of ourselves because of that. And One Day at a Time tells that story in not a cloying way, but in kind of an honest way, and it makes the laughs feel earned, even though sometimes we make mistakes in the first
And yeah, it feels like that energy and that tone and those themes have been there from the beginning. So was it always kind of a mission of the show, and maybe Brent too, when you and Norman Lear were first thinking of bringing the show back, was that element to it, or was it sort of like a natural evolution of the show and Gloria and Mike and these characters?
Well, I think what Mike and Gloria have done so brilliantly is they've really, I think, paid homage to the brand of Norman. So this show it ran from 1975 to 1984, the original, and when Mike and Gloria came on board, like, there's a reason that we have no musical transitions. I mean, that was something we talked about, and if you look at those shows from back then, there were no musical transitions. You didn't need that help because the writing was so good, and that's what's happening here. I mean, their team and led by them have created such amazing writing that we don't need any bells and whistles. We have the most incredible cast, that is saying the words that this team has put together. That it truly is the brand of Norman, and it's fun to see 40 years later that it's still relevant. Humanity hasn't changed. We're all still who we are, and these issues are all things that are important to all of us. And why not be able to find the humor in that is the brilliance behind what I would say Norman did back in the 70s. So it's so fun, and at the same time feels so good to be a part of something that is so important. So this is why we are not dead yet.
Let's talk about Rita Moreno for a second. Stephen, you and Rita have incredible chemistry together. The way you bounce off of each other is just so magical and quick. Had you met before the show, or? And
She was always an icon for me from when I was a little kid. Seeing her in West Side Story, I always loved her. So being able to do this show was like a dream come true. But I think one of the greatest, right now in my mind, time changes things, but right now my greatest takeaway from the show had nothing to do with anything that was on the show, but we were doing the final show of season 3. And Rita and I were getting her bucket list. We're checking off things on the bucket list, and we were waiting for
Bouquet
the
list.
cameras.
Yeah,
Bouquet list.
Right. I
bouquet
really enjoyed
list.
the audience trying to correct Stephen very politely. Just it's a bouquet list.
And we were waiting for the cameras to get set up, and Rita leaned over and started singing to me, singing from Finian's Rainbow. Look, look, look to the rainbow. Follow it over your mountains and streams. Look, look, look to the rainbow. Follow the fellow who follows his dream. And she just leaned over and sang the entire song to me. And it was gorgeous and it was beautiful. It's something I'll keep in my heart forever. And I asked, why did you sing that? And she said, because it's the song I always sang for my daughter when I put her to bed at night. And I go, but why are you singing it to me? She said, well, we have some time to kill. And I said, anytime you want to kill time, please just sing right into this ear.
So you guys are a little bit like Dr. Berkowitz and Lydia in real life.
Unfortunately,
is what I
yeah.
got from that story. It's lovely. And Justina, had you met Rita before the show, Justina?
Yes, I worked with Rita. Rita hates when I say this because she doesn't remember that we worked together 3 other times before One Day at a Time. She gets so offended, you have no idea, but that's the truth. The first time I met Rita, I was 19 years old. I was living I'm from Chicago, and I did there's some Chi-Town people. I'm from Chicago.
Wait, you're from Chicago?
Everybody makes fun
is
of
new
me.
information.
My every other line is like, listen, I'm from Chicago. If they're like, we get it, you're from Chicago. I did a play, a radio play, Roosters, back in the day. And yes, oh God.
Are you a
right.
fan
Yes,
of
yes.
the radio show Roosters?
And a play, Rooster, I forget who wrote that. But Rita, we flew her in, my theater company, and we did a radio play. That was the first time. The second time, we were on Ugly Betty together. That was the second time. And she played my mother-in-law. She doesn't remember. The third time, she played my mother in Welcome to the Family. But she don't remember. But she remembers me now. So it's okay. I feel okay now. I feel like she knows who I am. I feel like I can say, hi, Rita.
That feels like the universe kept trying to push you two together to play mother
I feel
and
like
daughter.
it, and finally she recognized me. I get it. Yes, so I have. But still, I mean, it's the first time I worked with her, really, and I really mean this. I was 19 years old, and it was just like, I mean, come on. You have Rita Moreno's in front of you. You know what I mean? West Side Story, all West Side Story. I understand Electric Company, but I was more of a Sesame Street person. Right? I never really
same.
watched that. Okay. But still, so she was so iconic in just that. So it's amazing that we've had this recurring relationship for so long. And then we got together on, the greatest part I've ever had, truly, thus far, the greatest part I've ever had. And, oh my gosh. Oh, my phone, it's all right. It probably broke. It's okay. I'll get a
fell
new
from
one.
the ceiling.
It's just
I'm
an
sure it
iPhone.
Doesn't
broke.
look
Did you hear
good.
that? It broke. It's all right.
I'm just
Yeah, it's
Okay,
all right.
no,
That's
Todd's
fine.
good.
Whatever.
Okay.
I have insurance.
Sounded
It'll be
bad,
okay.
sounded
I
bad.
think
Oh,
it's broke.
it's all
Okay.
good.
Yeah. Oh wow! I can't believe it. Okay. So yes, it's pretty amazing. Forget it, Melissa. I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
I love it.
Let's go to the next question.
Okay. Todd,
Yeah.
you were invited into the writer's room this past season, correct?
I was. Yes.
Can you talk about writing that episode and Schneider's whole storyline this season was...
Todd also directed this season.
And Todd
yes,
also
he
directed
directed.
this
He directed
season.
this.
I got to direct episode 8, which was one of the great joys of my life. And yeah, that was an interesting... I was terrified. I was terrified to tell or ask my castmates to do stuff. For the first half hour. And by the way, this is your room key that fell out with your phone. I just want to give that back to you so there's no rumors started. We are like best friends. That's it, guys. Because maybe they traced those room keys. I don't know. I don't want to be found with your room key. Yeah, no, directing episode 8 was just absolutely incredible. And I can attest that these guys make it. These guys made me look really good.
Yeah. And how did the writing come along and being in the writer's room?
The writers' room was great. I was very lucky this season that Mike and Gloria came up with this idea, as we all know, to have Schneider have a relapse. And so, alcoholism is something I struggle with in my personal life, and not struggle with. I mean, it's just part of my life, and I've been sober for a long time, and so they wanted to. Thanks for that. It was something that came up when I first got the role. Gloria called me and said, "We want to make this, more. We want to pull from your life, and is this something we can talk about and use for Schneider?" And I said, "Yes, please." I think it's it adds so much depth to Schneider, where I've said this before. Like traditionally, this sort of archetype in a sitcom is usually really there to come in, make some jokes, and be goofy and leave, and is not as layered as this character is. And it's just a great gift as an actor to have so many layers to Schneider. And so I got to go into the room and talk about the good, bad, and the ugly of what it was like when I was still drinking, and what it's like to relapse, and what it's like to try to maintain sobriety on a daily basis, and so the writers could use that stuff. And I felt like, that also in itself, like that's rare that we get to have input like that and to really help own the story a little bit and protect it. And Mike and Gloria were just so effusively nice and generous about saying, we want to get this right, and I think that's something that I'm so proud of on this show, is that with all of the different stories, with all of the representation, our writers and producers just always want to get it right and honor the various groups that we're talking about, the various issues, and make sure that we do it in an original way, in a funny way, but in a truthful and honest way, so that people actually get to see themselves on TV and get to say, oh my God, that story is exactly what I go through, and it's rare. It's rare. I have goosebumps just talking about it, because it's an honor to get to tell these stories in that way.
Well, and it really shines through because, Todd, you're incredible in that episode. Your performance and the words, and it's really lovely that you'd be so generous to share that part of yourself, because that episode is incredible.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Okay, last question. I love the show, and everybody loves the show so much for its representation, and that's what was so heartbreaking when we all found out the news. What is your general kind of outlook about that in the landscape of television? Is it getting better? I think we all agree that we need shows like One Day at a Time, and we hope that it comes back, because there's not really another comedy about a Latinx family. But yeah, if you could just talk a little bit about your general feelings on the overall TV landscape. No pressure, go.
I'm just going to talk for a second, and then well.
You create shows, your show, you let us know. Is it getting better?
Is it getting better?
Is it getting better?
Tell us it's getting better, Mike.
I mean, I think, so just as a general thing, I think, yes, in a great general sense, it's getting better, but there's that's because there's so far to go, right? And I just want to shout out to, how about her and Stephanie on the, Woo! But they came on, they're stars. They came on this show and, did it for what you do, pay a normal actor who's not a star. I'm just going to, this is a favor. They're doing us a huge, huge favor by lending their star power to our show.
Doing us a favor. I literally got the message and I was like, yes, when? Tomorrow? I'll be there.
I'm glad you were enthusiastic, but you were doing us a favor, and you're a liar if you say nothing. No, the reason I want to say that because the support, it was she and Stephanie supporting the show in that way, because trying to give us that little boost, any visibility that we can get to continue to tell the stories. So in that way, the community came together to help us, and it was just amazing to see. You just don't find a lot of other. It's just shows helping other shows. And everybody at Brooklyn Nine-Nine was nice enough to let you come over and do it, and it just was a great, great feeling. And so I just wanted to say that as far as support goes. I don't know, as far representation. Look, when we do this show and we have people, we can see tangibly, because there are people in the audience. We don't have to wait for the people to once the show comes out. You see the appreciation in the audience, and I've said this many times, but we any little touch about culture, not the culture that I am a part of, but Latinx culture that is happening in the home. You see the appreciation. We did this thing in season 2. I keep telling this story, but Rita goes to the baseball game. She brings everything in the different mantequillas, and everything is in the. This one is not. The food that's in this mantequilla is not the thing that was in the. The butter. Okay, I'm already screwing up the Spanish. You could please help me. Help me.
Yeah.
I don't know where the mantequilla was.
That's right. I'm using it too generally, though, as a. But But the recognition of like, oh, my mother used to do that, basically was so, like, the audience was roaring, and I was kind of like, what's so fun? Like, what's so, but you just felt the appreciation, and so that's when you realize that how important it is to be seen, to see yourself on television. I see myself a lot. There's a lot of bald guys, old bald guys. Yeah, that's right. I just have to look to my left, and I see. We're out there. It's enough with us already, right? I mean,
Yeah, I'm fine.
But I'm not sure. I don't think I've answered the question. But the point is, there should be more. That's why I want to keep telling our story here because of that, and there's some really great shows out there as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much to this amazing cast. Thank you for sharing your time. Thank you for coming. Keep tweeting about the show. We love you guys.